Hey everybody, we're getting ready to start the show. We're just having a little bit of a technical issue with Alex's mic. We'll be sure to start the show very shortly. Thank you for stopping by. And trust me, you guys do not want to miss the beginning of this show.
You are listening to Trophy Horse with your hosts, Tricky Mick, Alex, I Yield to No One,
Steve,
and Sid.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Trophy Wars. This is episode 570. I'm your host, Tricky Mick. Alongside with me, the man, the myth, the legend. It's Alex.
I don't really know what's worse, Skype's performance or Microsoft's first-party exclusives for the Xbox.
He brings the awesome. It's I Yield to No One.
You know, our individuals who was in the True Trophy Challenge, they might be out of it for individuals, but our team at every cutoff is still ahead of the team talking a lot of smack.
Do you know the team talking smack?
I do know the team talking a lot of smack, and at every cutoff point, our team is way ahead of their team.
Do we want to call those talking smack people out?
No, we'll just continue to finish ahead of them at every cutoff point.
And that's probably the best, because the best way to get revenge is just to silently watch them win. Watch you win.
The best, well, put it a little bit better. The best revenge is success.
Yes. All right, so I have a little special treat for you, gentlemen. A couple weeks ago, well, it's been going for a while, but I have been silently telling you guys about how much trouble I'm having to deal with at work. You know, all the stupidity that I'm dealing with, right?
Yes.
And Alex, you asked me to go in depth on some of the things, and I told you I couldn't do it at the time.
Look, man, you cut all the fun stuff out of last week's episode, so now you're going to go into the workplace drama?
What did I cut out last week?
Yeah,
oh, you didn't cut out the stuff that you said you were going to.
Oh no, that I did cut out. Yes, that
was the good stuff.
See, that was the
juicy
good stuff.
That was the prime rib, man.
But that could get me in trouble. What I'm about to reveal now can't.
How is that going to get you in trouble? Again, everyone already knows that stuff.
Well, I mean, you can't just blatantly admit to a crime.
How is that a crime?
Well, you just did, sir, saying that you were admitting to a crime.
All right. Listen. Let's kill that right now. We're not going into depth with that. But a little backstory for you guys, because I got a little bit of audio for you guys to play with you guys. I walked into work on Friday, and before I had a chance to sign in and even take my sunglasses off, a coworker came up to me and said, "Hey, we got something going on in the office." And
at that point, you just turn around and leave.
I said, "Okay, what is it?" They said, "I can't tell you. Just start recording." So I would have recorded, I would have released this earlier, but I had to edit it somewhat. So this is 100% real. This is 100% what happened, and I'm just gonna play it as it goes. And
hold on, Tricky, real quick.
yes,
We all know you work in sanitation. Is this the real shitstorm at work that you have to deal with?
this is a little bit of the drama and stupidity I have to deal with at work. Okay, are you guys ready?
Okay. Yes. Names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Alright, it is unspoken, but it is a law. You said it. Hold on. Okay, look, there is male bathroom etiquette.
Yeah, we know.
Okay, it's very simple, unspoken, but known. Very well known. Okay, you go, okay, you shake, you tuck, you zip, you turn. If you happen to make eye contact with the other guy coming in, you do the up nod and you keep going, right? Yeah, not fucking Dickie McGee today. No, I fucking walk in there to take a piss, okay? Dude fucking shakes, turns, eye contact, prolonged eye contact, tucks, zips, keeps eye contact, walks to the sink. What the fuck? Put your dick away when you're talking to me. Don't look at me with your fucking dick out. Put your dick away. You know, I mean, it's fair. I've been in a hurry before. You know, you shake, you talk. Important. Shake, talk, right? And then you turn and zip. That's okay. You're in a hurry. It's fair. Don't make eye contact with me, and don't look at me with your dick out. Put your dick away.
What movie is that from?
I just swear I just listened to an episode of Seinfeld.
That was not a movie. That was real life.
There's no way that's not from a television show or a movie.
I swear on anything that happened live at work.
I don't have anything to say.
Alex doesn't buy it.
Like this, I mean, here's the thing. Can I buy that that's a discussion that goes on somewhere? Like, I heard kitchen discussion is real nasty, real grody. And can I believe that people at the New York sanitation talk like that? Because, you know, they deal in a real dirty business. Okay, fine. But it just seems like so stagey. Like, just, this was set up and written for somebody to read on a television sitcom.
I swear, I agree with you, but that's the stupidity I deal with at work. I walked into that. I didn't know the context before.
What you're saying is that your coworkers don't have bathroom etiquette.
Apparently, Dickie McGee doesn't.
And then, of course, this person doesn't have any tact because they go around the office yelling about it.
They went into the office to complain about it because he felt
File a union report.
I had to have a conversation with that dude and Dickie McGee, who's obviously his name's been changed. But yeah.
Oh no, I kind of like Dickie McGee.
Yeah, I had to have a conversation about bathroom etiquette with somebody about putting your dick away before you turn away from the urinal.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This shit is common sense. Like, there's partitions that block your bits for a reason, you know, in a bathroom. So I just figured common courtesy was that people don't oogle each other in the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's New York. You know, New York state of mind, they say, right?
Listen, don't say it's New York, because this happens all over the world.
Hey, you know what? I ain't never walked into work with that kind of thing going on. Yield, have you ever gone into work with someone yelling about that?
No.
But you've heard some ridiculous arguments.
Oh, well, yeah, but not Seinfeld level arguments.
I've never watched Seinfeld. Is that really like a Seinfeld level argument?
It sounded like it to me.
Well, you know, there's the one episode where George gets caught naked, you know, changing, and then he's got some shrinkage because, you know, his junk is a little small and he gets laughed at. And he's like, I was in the pool. I mean, there's definitely stuff like that going on in Seinfeld. Not that crass or crude, I would say, but.
Well, you know, now that you bring up Seinfeld, I had a conversation at work. Apparently, and excuse the term because I'm just using the show term, there's a character on Seinfeld called the Soup Nazi.
Yes.
Okay. Apparently,
great character.
Apparently, he's a real guy in New York. He's not called that.
Seriously, there's a Soup Nazi in New York?
He's not called that, but apparently the character off the show was very heavily based off of him. And there is apparently a guy that acts like that in New York somewhere.
No soup for you.
I was going to say, of course, there's a real guy that plays the Soup Nazi. He's an actor.
No,
Yeah, no, I got you. That character is based off a real person who lives in New York City. Surprise, in New York City.
Yeah, I didn't even know. All right, so let's get on with the show proper.
Tricky, you should try to hunt down that soup guy and then record your experience with him.
Hey, you know what? As we go through our trophy count, I'm going to Google to see if I can find him. I am level 855, total trophies of 26,675, which I don't think is accurate because I didn't update mine. And
sorry, according to PSN Pro, or according to the PlayStation app, that's where you're at.
Does the PlayStation app show my actual trophies?
Yes.
Okay.
What good would the PlayStation app be if it didn't do that at the very basic?
Well,
basic, which, you know what? I have a gripe with the PlayStation app. You know, did you know that you can only so you know how like your captures that you do in game are transferred to the PlayStation app, which then you could just download to your phone or other device.
Correct.
You know that, right?
Say. Yes.
And actually, I like it because I took a lot of pictures playing Horizon and in the Burning Shores, and I could just now have those on my phone. It's great. I really like it. The problem is that you can only download 4 at a time. Do you know how many pictures I took in Horizon in the DLC alone? A lot. It's so damn annoying going 4 at a frickin' time. Come on, Sony. We put a person on the moon, decades ago, and you can't let me download more than 4 pictures at once? Disgusting.
But yes, that is accurate. No, because I was thinking that because I hide trophies that it wouldn't show you all my trophies, but it apparently does. All right, so apparently,
as long as we're synced to the server, I have your count.
Yeah. So apparently, this guy is real, and he's not too far away from where I work.
You're gonna have to go there and see if you get no soup for you. Next.
Alex, your trophy, sir.
I'm surprised, given how old Seinfeld is. I mean, that episode had to have aired like 30 years ago. I'm surprised that guy's honestly still in business. He must have been around. He must have been like a legendary character before they ever even appeared on that show.
Let's see.
But
it came out
while you're looking that up.
The TV episode came out in 1995.
Yeah, so going on 30 years ago. So that guy's probably up there in age. Maybe he's cooled out a little bit, or maybe he's even more grumpy and grumpier in his old age. I am a level 477. Total trophy count of 8,689, with a platinum count of 143 in 142 games. I did not add a platinum this week, but I did reattain my 100% in Horizon Forbidden West. So every challenge they put up, I've conquered.
All right. Yield your trophy count.
I am currently a level 496 with a trophy count of 9480. And a platinum count of 172. I earned 3 platinums this week.
All right, tell us. Well, why don't you start us off? I can't speak today. Start us off by telling us what 3 platinums, as you tell us what you've been playing.
So I played a little bit of Farm Simulator 19. I played some Rocket League on Tuesday to finish 2 weeks ago challenge. I played some on Thursday with Nitro and Alex. I played
Riley.
And Riley, that's right. He played for a bit. I played some on Saturday to finish out my assists. So I now have the red line car body. My phone went to sleep. Wake up, phone. I played some World of Warship Legends. I played some Ghost of a Tale, Platinum number 1. I played some Guns, Gore, and Cannoli 2, Platinum number 2. And I played some Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls, Platinum number 3.
Well, very good, sir. Alex, what about you, sir? What have you been playing?
So, as like I said, I finished up Horizon Forbidden West, The Burning Shores. Excellent DLC. Not super long, but just enough. I think I incorrectly said in the last episode, or maybe I took it out. I can't remember. But there are 8 total missions, 3 side, 5 main, and they're all pretty meaty. So you'll get quite a bit of value out of that. I know it is $20, so it is a little pricier on the DLC side, but I love Horizon, so I'm willing to pay it. And they really overdid it with the final mission and the final boss because they kind of went all out. So I'm kind of wondering where they'll go, beyond what they finished off with. And, they kind of basically laid out the roadmap of the story for the third game. They tell you what's going to happen or what the plan is to try to, fight play till the end of Forbidden West and you'll find out. But great DLC. Really enjoyed playing Horizon again. And I moved on to, like I said, Tales of Iron, which is side-scrolling. Like it's supposed to be a punishingly brutal combat game, like in the vein of the Souls games. I don't think it's that hard because really, once you get down the, it's 2D, so you're kind of constricted by the screen, and they do throw a lot of enemies at you at times. But as long as you can successfully parry and you can dodge, then you're doing pretty well. So I'm not saying you're going to fly through it, but on normal it is a challenging game. There is a fairy tale mode if you want to go through it on easy and just enjoy the story. But it's a cool game. I was immediately drawn to the aesthetic when we saw it for PlayStation Plus in April, and it's got you are a prince of the Rat Kingdom, and there's been peace in the kingdom, and the rats have allowed to flourish for years because the king years ago defeated the Greenwort, who is a frog, and his army. So it's basically rats against frogs. And there's been peace in the kingdom, but recently the frogs have invaded and wreaked a lot of havoc, and the king ends up dying, and one of the princes needs to fight against the horde of frogs and reclaim the land and make sure everybody is safe by defeating the frogs army. So fantastic art style, and it's got kind of a Game of Thrones vibe to it. There's even there's the Red Keep in Game of Thrones. Well, there's a Crimson castle. Crimson something. The Crimson Fort, maybe. I think it's called the Crimson Fort. So very Game of Thrones-esque feel to it. So yeah, I really enjoyed that so far. And it's one of those games where I was looking through games to play because I was like, what are some ultra rare trophies I can get for the competition, for the annual rarity competition. And I was looking through a lot of games, and I was like, man, a lot of these games have fucking time trials, or they're super hard to get, or they take a lot of hours, like Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, which takes over 100 hours to platinum. I'm not playing that fucking fighting game for over 100 hours. You're crazy if you think that's going to happen. But yeah, this game is fuck it, I'm just gonna play this game. It's the game I want to play. It's mostly common and uncommon trophies, but I don't really care because it's the game I would rather play a game I want to play for common and uncommon trophies than play a game I don't want to play for rarer trophies. Just for the sake of the competition. I'm sure I'll find some to play later on, but for now, this is kind of what I really want to play. So, if you claim Tales of Iron and you haven't played it yet, give it a try. It's a lot of fun.
All right. And I have been playing Jedi Survivor, and that's it. That's all I've been playing. I didn't even play
any additional comments on Jedi Survivor?
I do like the map. The map is much better. They have fast travel now, which is good. Nothing else I can tell you that wouldn't spoil something.
All right.
All right. So some comments from the chat. Matt G wants to know, is New York a one-party state? Yes and no. And Nitro wants to know, says, I didn't know this was a Loot Brothers podcast. All these mentions of dicks. Unfortunately, that's where we go. All right, so let's get into our topics because we have a major topic of the week suggested by your own I Yield to No One, who has broken it up into 3 sections, but we'll get into that when we get there. The first one, some sad news we have to start off with, gentlemen. Sony Studio Pixel Opus, best known for Concrete Genie, is shutting down. This is coming from Kat Bailey over at IGN. Pixel Opus, why can't I say that word? The small Sony Interactive Entertainment-owned studio, best known for its work on Concrete Genie, is shutting down. Sony confirmed in a statement to IGN that the studio will officially shutter on June 2nd. In a tweet posted today, Pixel Opus said that the studio's adventure, quote, has come to an end, end quote, while thanking its fans. The tweet read, "Dear friends, our Pixel Opus adventure has come to an end. As we look to new futures, we wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to the millions of passionate players who have supported us and our mission to make beautiful, imaginative games with heart. We are so grateful." Yeah. So I did not see this coming. Alex, I know you were a big fan of Concrete Genie, and I think, you just recently got the platinum in it, right?
Yes, I did.
I have not dived into Concrete Genie yet, but Alex, we'll start the floor with you. Sony closing the studio. Surprising?
Oh, I feel like it's been a long time since. Well, I shouldn't say that because what they shut down Sony Japan, which was responsible for the Eco series after Fumito Ueda left, and then who's the Astro's Playroom?
Team Asobi?
Yeah, they became like the headline studio over there in Japan. And also, I think London, which did a lot of did they do the MotorStorm games? I don't know. I don't think that was them. But didn't they? I think they closed Sony London. But I don't think they really closed a lot of studios. I mean, Microsoft, they fired quite a few people from Bethesda earlier this year, and so. I mean, this tends to happen. I mean, Nintendo, you don't really ever see that from Nintendo. I feel like they're pretty. Maybe that's why they don't acquire too many studios because they're happy with where they're at. But yeah, I mean, I didn't see this coming. Sony doesn't typically, when it's come to their exclusive studios, their own studios, they've made a lot of smart purchases. So you don't really expect this kind of thing to come out, especially Concrete Genie. I mean, that game came out. When did I play that game? Was that game? I played that 2021, maybe. I think it's whenever that and Control. I got those two platinums around the same time, so I feel like it was 2021. But I mean, Concrete Genie was a fun game. It was short. I think I got the platinum trophy in like 8 hours.
Concrete Genie was 19.
2019?
Yes.
But I'm saying when I played it because I don't think I think we got it for PlayStation Plus in 2021. I don't think I played it when it first came out. I think I waited for Plus or when it was on sale or something. So I mean, it's 4 years ago when it came out. I mean, and Sony in their statement said that they are constantly reevaluating their resources and the project at different projects, at different studios, and based on what they said in the corporate statement, you can pretty much surmise that they looked at Pixel Opus and noticed that Pixel Opus didn't have much going on. And we recently talked about that article or the news from an interview with Shuhei Yoshida where he said that they cancel a lot of games. So maybe Pixel Opus after Concrete Genie had laid out a bunch of ideas they could do. And Sony rejected him, or Sony approved one, and then they started to get to work on it, and then Sony's like, this isn't working out. So basically, Sony said that, hey, we're closing the studio because they're not doing much. And it sucks because, if Sony is going to, they talked about putting aside more money for acquisition. So if they are going to go more acquisition heavy, you want to avoid this kind of stuff. Hopefully Pixel Opus will be able to, all those people will be able to be integrated into Sony Studios because, again, Sony does a lot of big projects, and they are going to need talented people. So I would hope that they can find homes for everyone at Pixel Opus, but of course that means people at Pixel Opus have to pick up and move their lives, wherever, hopefully not to another country, but, you would think to at least somewhere in the U.S. I'm not exactly sure where Pixel Opus is. I'll look that up when Yield talks, but yeah, it sucks. You don't want to see this kind of thing, especially when Sony is doing so many acquisitions. But it's the nature of the beast, even if it is unexpected. So I just hope that Pixel Opus can be reintegrated into Sony via other studios because they are very talented people, and I think they could have a lot to contribute going forward to Sony games. All
right, Yield, floor is yours.
I was worried about stuff like this when as I like to call it, the buying war started. I enjoyed Concrete Genie. It was way better than what I was giving it credit for. So I was interested to see what they would come up with next. So that's kind of where I am, is that it's just disappointing. And And this is why I feared gobbling up all these studios, is eventually, if you don't meet a timetable, whether publicly or not, or publicly known or not, that they might just be like, yep, you guys are done.
Well, according to the article, it says Pixel Opus was reportedly working on an untitled project in collaboration with Sony Pictures Animation. So it sounds to me, just like from the article, that they weren't even working on another game. And I would assume that a game studio that's working on some kind of movie or short or something like that wasn't being utilized properly. So, I mean, there is some argument to say that a game studio should not be working on animation, and, you know, this was mismanaged by somebody that said, okay, Pixel Opus, you go work on this animation instead of working on your next game.
Well, that would be Sony, because Sony was the one who bought them.
Right.
Well, so the studio was headquartered in San Mateo, California. So obviously Sony has a breadth of studios out there, so I mean they can always be brought in to other studios. And they did 2 games, it looks like. They released 2 games, Concrete Genie and Entwined, which I know that I actually have it in my library, so it must have been free for PlayStation Plus at some point. But yeah, Concrete Genie was nominated for a BAFTA award. And I mean, I think somebody pointed this out where they were founded in 2014, and then they, in 9 years, I guess, they put out 2 games. Concrete Genie being announced in October 2017 and then released on October 2019, which 2-year turnaround is not that bad. But yeah, 2 games in 9 years, and depending on what they were working on now, which, as Tricky said, may have not been games related, I guess you can see why Sony would shut them down. But, you know, again, that if they were kind of like, I know that some studios in Sony, like Naughty Dog, have a lot more pull than, you know, other game studios might. But, you know, if a studio like Pixel Opus was kind of wandering and not really focused, or they were they were put on another project by someone else in Sony that maybe they shouldn't have been put on, I mean, that's kind of on Sony. So, I mean, poor management, again, is usually what leads to you know, issues with first-party releases and issues with stuff like this with studio closures. So, you know, you release a successful game like Concrete Genie and you get closed. I don't know. It just seems like mismanagement. It seems like they should have been doing something else, or watched more closely and put on a project that would have allowed them to succeed, because I have no doubt that they had more ideas. I mean, even if they did like a Concrete Genie 2 or something, surely they could have put something else good out there.
All right, some comments from the chat. Joe popped in to say something, but I don't know because it got banned. And Matt G says, Joe, now is not the time to jinx ourselves. I think it has to do something with the Devils, who are, you know, not doing too good in the playoffs right now.
Well, they had enough muster to beat the Rangers.
They did. It was a hard-fought series, and we're gonna leave it like that. They beat us fair and square, but the Rangers kind of gave up in Game 7 and just couldn't solve their goalie, the Devils' goalie. So we'll leave it at that. All right, moving on to our next topic here.
The Rangers got shut down like Pixel Opus. Oh.
You know, you guys are supposed to be on my side, just so you know.
I ain't said a word about nothing, but that was freaking hilarious. Well played, Alex.
Nitro says, I got you, Joe. All right. Next topic coming from Christina Alexander over at IGN. Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered is now available standalone. If you guys remember, it only came on the PS5 as part of the Miles Morales Collector's Edition. But now you can buy it separately. Upcoming PS5 game, Marvel Spider-Man 2, is getting a prequel in the form of a comic, which will also be available at Free Comic Day on May 6th. So hopefully you guys have done that already. The game, it's now available to buy as a standalone game on the PlayStation Store. PlayStation 5 players who are new to the game can buy it outright, while those who already own the PS4 version can upgrade for $10. So if you guys are looking to play Spider-Man on the PS5 and you already ordered for the 4, you can now get it for $10 for the 5. Otherwise, it will cost you $50 to buy it.
So they have a prequel comic, but won't the events of Marvel Spider-Man and Miles Morales lead into this Marvel Spider-Man 2?
I'm sorry, say that again. I was reading the chat. Sorry.
I'm sure you were, Tricky. So they have a prequel comic for the game, but didn't the events of the second game get set up by Miles Morales and Marvel Spider-Man, the original?
Yes, but you could also well, I think the original Spider-Man led us into the events of Miles Morales. I think this comic is lead us from Miles Morales into Spider-Man 2.
Okay. Yeah, but see, that's the thing, though, is
I feel not really a prequel, then, is it?
My thing is, though, is how many people are going to play the games but not read the comic, and then miss out on a chunk of stuff. I mean, hell, I just played Miles Morales. I didn't even play Marvel Spider-Man, and yeah. So by putting in a comic and not addressing it in the game, you're telling me you couldn't have put something in Miles Morales to bridge the gap better? You're putting out a prequel comic that's going to miss a large section of your audience.
I think you split hairs there, Alex. I think you're putting too much stock into this comic.
But no, it's like, well, I mean, if it's that important, clearly they thought it was important enough to put out a comic to pay someone to do it. But it's like having stuff hidden away on YouTube for like a regular television show that people then have to go to YouTube to watch in order to find some of the backstory to this continuing story arc. It just put it in the games. You've got people playing your games. Bridge the gap through your games.
Yeah, but this is also a marketing strategy to get comic book people into the game as well.
Yeah, but again, you're not going to hit everybody. So and maybe people will play Spider-Man 2 and not care, and they'll enjoy it regardless. I just think putting stuff like that in a comic that a lot of people will not get or even read or know is out there, because I didn't know this was out there. I wouldn't have known if you didn't read this article to me. I don't know. I think it's a failure in ways of storytelling, because you need to get that in. I mean, if you want to do this, then make sure that there's a digital comic that explains these events before Marvel Spider-Man 2. Like, put it in some way in a digital form on like as an extra in the game that people can watch, so that they don't have to go out and get this comic book. If you want to do both, I'm fine with that. But I think that you miss part of the audience when you just release it on a comic book.
Yield?
I agree with Alex.
Okay. Moving on.
And I'm also reading the next topic.
Yeah. Next article is coming from IGN. Is written by Matt Purslow. Hogwarts Legacy has now sold 15 million copies and made over $1 billion, and that number is expected to notably increase as the game just became available on previous generation platforms. Talking as part of the company's earnings call today, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav said, quote, Hogwarts Legacy has amassed more than $1 billion in retail sales and over 15 million sold worldwide to date, and today the team is launching the game on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One platforms. The sales numbers make Hogwarts Legacy Warner Brothers' fifth $1 billion plus gaming franchise, put in the stable with Lego, DC, Mortal Kombat, and Game of Thrones. But sales are expected to keep growing. Not only does Hogwarts Legacy launch on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One today, but a Switch version will arrive in July. JB Perrett, CEO of Global Streaming and Games at WB Discovery, noted that the earnings call that the Switch version was important for sales. All right, so apparently the ban, or the not the ban, but the protest and everything didn't really seem to affect sales at all. Does that surprise you, gentlemen?
No. Also, I didn't realize Game of Thrones was $1 billion game franchise.
Well, I don't. Does it say game franchise? Yeah.
Yes.
It does say
game
game
was the
franchise.
fifth. Lego, I see. DC, yes, because the Arkham games were amazing. Mortal Kombat, duh. Game of Thrones, you tell me what Game of Thrones games that have been out that have hit $1 billion. Because the only one I can think of is Telltale.
I think there have been some Game of Thrones PC games. Game of Thrones.
Well then, okay, then that's naive of me to not conclude PC games. I was thinking console games. So.
Apparently there's been like 30 games. No, that's not right. Because this was I'm just looking off the top of my head. I'm seeing probably about 15 games.
Okay. I was just curious. Maybe it's just because it's something that I don't pay attention to, but
okay. While we wait for Alex to get back, Nitro, I'm not a sore loser. I'm timing. I'm banning Joe out because behind the scenes, Joe and me had a good conversation about the series and whatnot, and then all of a sudden he decided to become what I'd like to say, and this is no like insult to anybody, a Homer level fan where he just wanted to be annoying out in the public. Because Yield, I think you could agree that your brother is one of those fans that's just annoying with his fandom.
Well, don't insult the Buckeyes and he'll leave you alone.
Listen, insult him or not, he's still all out.
Wait, Buckeyes, are we talking about the candy or the team?
I have both. I have told you, you poke the bear or you mess with the bull, you get the horns when it comes to him and the Buckeyes.
Yeah,
but
you don't even have to poke him and he's annoyed with it.
Well, yes.
Okay.
That's just, he loves his Buckeyes, but I tried to warn you. So
apparently the Devils are down in their series 2-1 right now.
Oh, well, that's not bad.
Well, they lost their first 2 games by 5-1 and 6-1.
Well, maybe they were just getting warmed up.
Well, that's the same thing that happened with the Rangers too. So.
Ah, well then see, maybe they like playing from behind.
And then they won their last game 8-4, which 8 goals is a lot.
It is a lot.
There's not much defense going on in that series.
No. All right, moving on. Right. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, we were gonna get Alex's opinion. Alex, Hogwarts amassing over $1 billion. Thoughts?
No surprise. It's, anything regarding Harry Potter is going to be mired in controversy because of J.K. Rowling. But, as has been pointed out, a lot of people who love Harry Potter still enjoy living in the universe, watching the movies, collecting, the memorabilia, all the different, I'm trying to think of a better word, but the collectibles, all the merchandise. There we go. Merchandise is the word I was looking for. And obviously playing this game. So 15 million units sold is incredible. And it's, the game's been out since February. And it's February or January. I can't remember. But it's been out since this year. And to sell 15 million already is quite impressive. So it's you got to be happy for the team that made it and the people that can enjoy the game. I mean, despite all the controversy, it's been successful. So...
All right. At this time, we're going to throw it to our listener questions as I find the right button so I don't hit the wrong one. Time to check my social media, yeah. All right. So if you want to get involved and ask us questions, please hop into our Discord and our Facebook group, and you can ask questions. A little bit of news before we get involved with the questions. Want to announce that I have hired a social media manager. V, who you've heard on the show many times, is our new social media manager. She's going to be reaching out to you guys, getting questions, getting you guys involved. So please give her the love and respect that she deserves. And she's been on fire today. First day on the job, and she's already doing God's work. First question coming from Matt G. Do you put whipped cream on top of your pancakes or waffles? Alex, we'll go with you.
I am not too much with the carbs. I mean, we went out and ate pizza this evening before recording, so I will get down with some carbs. But breakfast-wise, I'm usually an omelet guy. Some sausage or some bacon. I don't really deal in the pancakes and the waffles. But if I did, I would gladly put some whipped cream on them.
That's a long-winded answer to say yes.
Well, I'm being honest. I don't normally eat them, but if I did, I would. Look, man, I'm a fruit and yogurt kind of guy. Throw some walnuts on there, I'm happy. But I don't typically eat the desserty breakfast. But I'm just saying, I support Matt and what he's doing.
All right. Yield?
I don't at home, but if I was to go to like IHOP or something, sure.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of whipped cream on them, but I will eat them if I go out to like IHOP and stuff like that. I don't tell the waiter like take off the whipped cream or anything like that. So yeah, I guess we all do. All right. Next question is coming from Zach. This question I guess is directed to me because I already know your answers. Why do I listen to your show and you don't listen to ours? So Yield, I'll start with you. What's your answer?
Since I've started podcasting, I honestly don't really listen to any shows anymore.
And Alex?
I mean, honestly, it's nothing against the Loop Bros. I mean, if I didn't have to edit, I wouldn't listen to our show either. I would only know because I record this. But I don't listen to any really video game podcasts. I mean, I do listen to a Pokemon podcast, but it's like overall Pokemon. And yeah, it does deal a lot with the games, but it's not just the games. So it's not like I go and listen to IGN or anything like that and then don't listen to the Loot Bros. And even with the 3 podcasts I listen to, I find it difficult to keep up at times. So nothing against Loot Bros, not a comment on the quality or anything. I just don't listen to really any video game podcast.
And my answer is, if your show was good, I would listen to it.
Well, see, now he's going to stop listening. Which, I mean, I wouldn't blame him.
Hey, he started this drama, okay? So I'm just
Yeah, but he's asking a simple question. You don't got to dump a bucket of crap on him.
No, because I posted yesterday that I was streaming Jedi, and he says, you won't listen to our show, but you want us to come watch. And who says I don't listen to the Loop Bros?
I mean, you do go on the Loop Bros. How often?
A lot. All right. So Austin wants to know, what do you think will be included in the May PlayStation Showcase? Now, context before I'll let you guys answer. This has not officially been announced. This is coming from a rumor of a tweet where a guy tweeted out all the shows he's going to be attending in 2023. And he said that he's going to be at the showcase, which I don't know how he's going to be at the showcase. But there is one the week of May 25th. So, assuming there is a showcase, what do you think will be included? Alex?
Well, I feel like Spider-Man's a fall game, so we'll get more on Spider-Man in the summertime. I would probably have to say, depending on when in the year it comes out, I would think Final Fantasy 16 in a partnership with Square would be a big one. Although I don't know if that's releasing closer to Tokyo Game Show. I mean, but if it releases too close to Tokyo Game Show, they would want to do something far in advance. So my guess would be Final Fantasy 16.
Well, they already had a full Final Fantasy 16 show.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, just recently.
Oh, why?
Yeah, it was the last state of play that pretty much most of us avoided because it was all.
Oh, okay.
16.
Well, no, wasn't the last one the or was it the one before that was the Suicide Squad?
That was the one before.
Okay. I don't know when is the state of play? Like not the doesn't Sony have a Days of Play or some kind of promotion coming up for the summer? I don't know. Something on that. Maybe an indie game showcase.
They changed the names. We have the state of plays. We have the showcases. I think the showcase is the basically like their E3 showing, even though we don't have E3. But I think that's their E3 show. And the state of plays are pretty much like a game announcements, or they focus on one game like they did with Suicide Squad or Final Fantasy. So I think what they're referring to with the showcase is just this is their E3 type of show that they do.
Fair enough. Yeah, but do you have any kind of opinions on what they might show, Tricky?
I think we have to see Marvel Spider-Man. I think we have to have an upgrade on or update on Wolverine.
Oh, see, no, I don't think you'll see that again this year. I think you might see it next year, but we're not going to see it. They've announced it, but we're not going to see it again until it's closer to release.
Well, I agree, but I think we're going to get some kind of update. We may not see it They may just tell us it's still in production, or they're a targeted release window. But I don't think we're gonna get too far into it. And then I think we're gonna get a few announcements that we don't see coming. I don't know what they would be. Maybe we'll get an update on the Sony Ben game. I don't know.
I think who we'd be primed to hear from would be the Ratchet and Clank team.
That too.
Because they have two separate teams, I believe, and obviously one is working on Spider-Man, but what is the Ratchet team working on?
Yeah, we maybe we'll get a Ghost of Tsushima 2 tease.
Sly Cooper
as well. All right. I don't know if you guys hear, but Harley's getting active in the background here. Yeah. All right. So
I don't get to say my opinion.
I'm sorry.
I was thinking we'll probably hear something on Wolverine. That was really probably about it. Maybe we'll probably hear some new games, but I haven't really been staying on top of all the up and coming things down the pipeline as I have in years past, or maybe it's just been a really quiet year.
All right. So we have a last question coming from Homer. His question is multiple questions, but they all just give suggestions. Homer says, in honor of the release of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, what kind of lightsaber stance is the consensus rocking? Dual lightsabers like Ashoka? Broadsword lightsaber like the cool, albeit completely unnecessary hilt guard? The single-bladed lightsaber that's used by every single Force user ever in almost every single movie? Or the double bow staff lightsaber a la Darth Maul? Yield will go to you first.
So I have always liked the bow lightsaber, and I have always liked the twin lightsaber that I first saw it introduced in I'm drawing a Force Unleashed. But I like how he kind of held his in reverse, he held his normal, where Ahsoka holds hers backwards, and I like the way Ahsoka holds hers. So probably a combination of Ahsoka and Darth Maul. Probably almost in the vein of what you could do in Fallen Order, where you could have the bow one, or you could pull it apart and have dual. Although he held them upright, like Starkiller, I kind of like them how Ahsoka holds them backwards. So kind of a combination of those two, which I know is kind of weak, but I can't pick a best between the two because I like them both.
All right, Alex?
Well, I haven't played Jedi Survivor yet, so I can't really say what stance I'm rocking.
Well, no, he's just saying because in honor of the game, how would you rock your lightsaber? Just in real life, if you had a lightsaber, how would you rock yours?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. Part of me wants to be I'm unhinged, so I'm going to drag my lightsaber across the ground, like Pyramid Head from Silent Hill 2. But then also I'd be you know what? I would hold the hilt, I would hold the sword backward. I would have the hilt in my hand, but the blade would be behind me, kind of. Which would be, I mean, some people can fight really well like that, but as far as a cool stance, I don't know. I just feel like I would look goofy either way, so probably one of those two. Either drag it on the ground and make a terrible, terrible noise, or just hold it behind me. Or, also another option, I would hold it like a home run bat, like I'm trying to swing for the fences, for all you baseball fans out there. See,
the lightsaber, you're not playing baseball.
Knock some heads off that way. I'm not really honestly that concerned about the stance because you have a lightsaber, you're going to look cool no matter how you stand. But I will say that, to me, more importantly, the hilt, what the hilt looks like, and then also the color, the crystal. I want the crystal color that I want. So, that's where I'm at. That's the more important thing to me than the stance.
All right, some comments from the chat. Matt G says, Darksaber, this is the way. And Joe says, a single-bladed lightsaber.
Yeah, but isn't that like, the Darksaber, that's very much Disney. Obviously, the Mandalorian. So are people keen on that? I thought people were turning on Star Wars Disney.
I thought the Mandalorian was like prior.
So it kind of depends on which Star Wars Disney. A lot of people liked, from what I'm seeing, they like Mandalorian except for the last couple of seasons. Any of your mainline story, basically Solo and the sequel trilogy, is what people are kind of up and down about.
Okay.
But even people have started to turn on the TV series. Like, not very many people that I've talked to like Book of Boba Fett. And a lot of people have been disappointed with Mando Season 3.
So, Book of Boba Fett was more like Mandalorian 2.5. That's where they failed there, my opinion.
You didn't like the Book of Boba Fett?
I liked it. Okay. So when I watched the Book of Boba Fett, I wanted to see Boba Fett. And I figured you would see Mandalorian. But out of an 8-episode event, they used 2.5 episodes to bridge the gap between season 2 and 3.
Okay. That's fair.
So to me, you took away from the Book of Boba Fett. So I was expecting 8 episodes of Boba Fett. That and they kind of wussified Boba Fett, even though they kind of explained why a little bit. But Boba Fett wasn't the badass that we expected him to be. But anyway.
All right, Joe.
I went with it. But
Joe in the chat says, there is too much Star Wars, which is something I thought I would never say.
I'm enjoying the TV shows more than I am the movies.
I haven't watched. Andor? Andor? That's
Andor.
Yes, Cassian Andor, the TV show is his name.
I enjoyed that because I hated his character in Rogue One. I despised that character. I actually enjoyed season 1. I'm looking forward to season 2.
And I haven't watched season 3 of Mandalorian yet. So I got some Star Wars to catch up on.
Yeah, did you at least watch Obi-Wan?
I did watch Obi-Wan. I thought that was really good.
It could have been better. It wasn't bad.
I do like the fact that they brought back Hayden Christensen for Darth Vader. I really enjoyed that.
Yes, that was good.
But as far as my lightsaber, you got to go with the double bow staff, like the greatest Sith of all time, Darth Maul.
Wait, you think that you're as cool as Darth Maul? You jabroni? How dare you compare yourself to the best?
I'm not comparing myself to the best, but I'm saying that I aspire to be like the best Sith of all time.
Tricky is going
Darth
to...
Sidious?
No, Darth Maul. Darth Maul is the greatest Sith of all time. Hands down. Fight me. Vader does not hold a candle to Maul.
Dude, I love Maul, but if you look at the grand scheme of things, Sidious is the greatest Sith of them all.
Negative.
Dude, he played both sides brilliantly, and no one knew about it.
Okay, but okay.
Come on, tell me I'm wrong.
There's no denying.
He even got his master to teach him his I'm drawing his ability to steal life, and then killed him on it, and then played both the good guy and the bad guy, and no one knew about it. Single-handedly took down the Jedi Order. I'm sorry. I have a hard time not...
No, he didn't take that. He didn't single-handedly take down the Jedi Order.
He got Anakin to do it, but still, it was him.
No. You want to talk about what took down the Jedi Order was...
hubris?
No.
Well, they got into a war they should have never gotten into.
Order 66 is what took down the Jedi Order. Now, granted, he was the mastermind behind that. He did get that going. But the Emperor.
And he also got them separated throughout the galaxy so Order 66 would work.
Right. But I don't know. Harley is killing me behind me. I went to put her up and I said, let me just feed her. She'll calm down. Now she's throwing her food bowl around. Okay. The Emperor is good. Okay. But I don't know. Something about Maul, just like, see, when the argument comes to Vader, to me, okay, he was a great Sith, but in the end, he went back to the light side.
Yeah.
So to me, I don't think he was ever really fully Sith. I think he destroyed his life by killing Padme, essentially. And when Obi-Wan did what he did in Episode 3, I think that left Anakin no choice but to become Vader. But I think once he found out that Luke and Leia were alive, I don't think he was really Sith anymore. Does that make sense?
Yes. So answer me this. Have you seen or know of Maul's history through Rebels?
No, but I do intend to go back. And some comments from the chat here. Joe says, the greatest Sith, ha 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 ha. He got killed by a whiny-ass bitch and an old man. Obi-Wan was a whiny-ass bitch. And then he says, Order 66 was trash. It was terribly executed, just like making another Death Star with the same fucking design flaw.
All right, well, hold on. I'm going to disagree with Joe here because it sounds like Joe doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. I don't know if he watched Episode 1, but he took down a Jedi Master and a Padawan who would probably go on to become the greatest Jedi of all time. He killed Qui-Gon, and then he bested Obi-Wan. Only his hubris is what defeated him. He had Obi-Wan dead to rights. So, Joe, you're completely wrong there. I know what the hell you're smoking. So, yeah. Darth Maul is... The reason you like him, Tricky, is because he's the coolest Sith. I don't think he's the best Sith. I think he's the coolest. And he's the most acrobatic and the flashiest one. But that's what makes him the coolest. And, like, coming from Dathomir, like, that species just looks super cool. But as far as, like, a Sith and his importance to the overall story... and as far as like power levels go, yeah, he's the best with a lightsaber, but when it comes to overall power, no. I mean, there are others more powerful. I mean, Darth Vader is just, to me, he's kind of blah at this point because he's been put into so many damn things, and they've basically retconned his powers to make him more powerful than ever. And then you go back to the old movies and you watch him, and he's nowhere near as strong as he is today when he's, in his younger days. And the Emperor, like, yeah, he's a tactician, but he's not the flashy sword fighter. So obviously he doesn't come across as cool. But Darth Maul is my favorite Sith, but is he the best? No, even I can admit that. I'm assuming Tricky. Take care of the dog. Do you have any issues with what I just said?
No, I agree with that. Maul's one of my favorites. I can't. Since Tricky doesn't know Maul's history through Rebels, I don't want to poke holes in it until he sees it or knows about it. I know about it because I've seen stuff on Facebook and little clips here and there that I know what happens a little through Rebels. So,
well, it's not only that, but it's also
I could poke holes in one of his defenses so bad.
Well, it's also the Clone Wars, and you get more of his backstory, including meeting his brother Sauvage Opress, who bites it before Darth Maul ever does, or Darth Maul comes back. It's funny. Everyone thought after Episode 1 that Darth Maul's going to come back with a robotic bottom, and as it turns out in the Clone Wars, yep, he did. So I mean, but you get more of his backstory in Clone Wars. I don't know how that compares to Rebels because I never watched Rebels, but you also do get to meet his brother.
I haven't gotten to that point yet. I just know I was super stoked in Solo when I got to see Maul. I was like, oh yeah.
Yep.
Well, and not only that, but when the toys came out for Episode 1, Darth Maul was easily one of the hardest to find. And he had two forms, and one of the forms was even harder to find than the other one. But, yeah, he was one of the hardest ones to find of that original run.
All I know is that when I played Skywalker Saga, Maul was my go-to to run around the world in.
Well, yeah, that's mine when I played Lego Star Wars.
Joe also says Darth Maul was never the master or the apprentice. Let that sink in. He was the apprentice. He was the apprentice before
Dooku.
So you're wrong, Joe. Get some knowledge on your Star Wars trivia because you're obviously way off. I mean, what do we expect from a Devils fan? All right, so
Man, you need to stop bringing up the Devils when you lost the Devils in the playoffs.
listen, I'm not sore about it. Listen,
You keep making fun of the Devils
because he's
It
in my
seems like you're-
chat telling me the Rangers suck.
it seems like your ass is a little trapped there, Tricky.
Well, I mean, they did lose.
They did lose, but that doesn't mean they suck. And if it wasn't, listen,
Did the Devils win?
let's put it this way, okay? I'm going to be totally straight and honest with you. The Devils won, granted, but if it wasn't for that rookie goalie who played his ass off, and let me tell you, he did a fantastic job. If it wasn't for that goalie, the Rangers had that whole entire team. Because anytime they put the other goalie in, the Rangers had his number. Listen, I'm not taking away from the Devils. Devils won the series, 100%. But if it wasn't for that goalie, the Devils would not be where the hell they are right now. I'm just saying that. And that's it. That's it. We're done.
Yeah, but that's like, I'm not comparing this goalie to Michael Jordan, but that's like saying, take Michael Jordan out the Chicago Bulls, and what do you have? Like, he's part of the team.
Well, do you think, all right, but in the 90s, do you think if they took Jordan off the Bulls would have won 6 out of 8 championships?
They took Jordan off the Bulls, and the Bulls were terrible.
Exactly.
Because remember, he went to play on the White Sox.
He went to go play baseball for 2 years to do his suspension.
But
we don't have to envision what the Bulls would have been like without Michael Jordan, because the Bulls, in fact, did not have Michael Jordan.
But you're making a comparison from the greatest basketball player of all time. Sorry, it's not LeBron. I don't know who the fuck ever thinks that. Jordan was the greatest basketball player of all time. But that's like taking... Okay. The best comparison I can say is the Patriots. The Patriots were a good team, and Tom Brady came off the bench and took the world by storm. If the Patriots never did that back in the day, we never would have known how good Brady was. Now,
you mean if Drew Bledsoe hadn't gotten hurt?
Right. So the Rangers score 5 goals on them in the first game, the other goalie. The second game, the Rangers scored 5 goals on them. And the third game, in a hope and a prayer, you put up this rookie goalie. And yes, he did a fantastic fucking job. I'm not denying it at all. The guy was unsolvable until game 6, in which they lit him up for 5 goals. And then he came back game 7 and rebounded and didn't give up a goal. A rookie goalie in the playoffs holding out 2 shutouts, that's unheard of. Let's just be real here. But I'm going to leave it there. All right, we're going to go to our topic of the week this week. An article I got from IGN. PlayStation's 10 live service games will be different from different genres and different audiences. Now, Alex, I don't know that you play any live service games. Yield, I know you do, at least when it comes to World of Warships.
Yes.
So, in an interview with GameIndustry.biz, PlayStation studio Herman Hulst said, quote, "There is a risk that we talk about in live service generic games, as if a single genre or even a single business model. PlayStation studios are making a variety of games that could be referred to as live services, targeting different genres, different release schedules, and at different scales. We are also creating games for different audiences, and I take confidence in our track record in creating worlds and stories that PlayStation fans love." End quote. Hulst explained that each of the studios PlayStation recently acquired is on its own trajectory. Additionally, whether or not an acquisition occurs depending on whether a studio needs to be growing to succeed, being a part of PlayStation Studios allows access to a global network of other studios, as well as technology and service teams. Quote, "The priority for each studio is to deliver their own project to make the best game that they can." End quote. So, I gotta go take care of Harley again, sorry. So I'm gonna leave you guys to talk about this. Yield, you have some experience with live service games. You know, like in World of Warships. I have experience with live service games in the Division. You know, should live service games be a business model moving forward is my question to you guys.
Okay, so personally, no. I think 10 games is an awful lot. And I say that because even though I enjoy Rocket League and I enjoy World of Warship Legends, I was hot and heavy into World of Warship Legends for a while. I'm a World War II guy, especially the naval part of it. So I enjoy those ships. But the problem is that, being a free game, as World of Warship Legends was, they make their money from I think it's bi-monthly campaigns. And at first, when they introduced the campaigns, it was once every so often. So it wasn't bad to dive into a campaign, to spend the doubloons, to then, you can get everything and get the ship at the end of the campaign. The problem now is, like I said, they do it bi-monthly. So a campaign lasts roughly 2 months. When that campaign's done, they roll right into the next one. They roll right into the next one, and yada, yada, yada. As much time as it takes for me to devote to play a campaign, to go for a ship, I can't play anything else. And so now, the only real times I play warships is I play Doubloon Week to get the free money, and I might dabble in it once a day, long enough to work on my bureau project a little bit faster, but really I don't play it as much as I used to. Rocket League we play a lot because, there was one season I didn't get into it because the awards weren't that cool. But, we're getting together about once every Thursday, so you might as well join in on the past if you're going to play that much. But I don't know. The couple of games that they list here, or the one real game that they list here is Naughty Dog's. I could care less about a multiplayer shooter, so to speak. I know Alex and I were huge into Warhawk. I don't know if you would ever be able to hit that again. I'm not saying I wouldn't try any of their games because, I'm kind of a wait-and-see type person in that aspect. You got to show me what you got. Does it hit a nerve? Does it intrigue me? Maybe I'll try it. But I personally think 10 is way too much on a market that's kind of already feels oversaturated. Alex?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know when these games are going to be coming out, so, you're trying to think of what Sony has already and what they could possibly develop into a live service game, and you feel like a lot of these games are going to be brand new. They're going to be new IP or something like that. Obviously, there's a lot of money in these, but will Sony be able to corner so much of the market or get such a big chunk of the market that people can constantly support 10 live service games from them? And again, when are these going to come out? Are they going to come out, are we going to get a clump of them, like a cluster, like 3 or 4 at a time, or are we going to get 2 at a time, and then or is their plan?
I think if they come out with all at the same time, they're going to cannibalize themselves because.
Well, no, I'm not saying all at the same time. I'm saying obviously they're going to stagger them, but why not just focus on? Because if they have 10, they've got to be looking out at least a decade. They got to be looking past the PlayStation 5. So, I mean, why don't you just develop, anywhere from 1 to 4, or maybe
that's what
5
I was thinking. 5 at the most.
And just see how that goes and see what you can do. I mean, you can always, a live service game, you can always make a sequel to that game. If you're going for 10, it's like.
Well, okay, I missed most of the conversation, so I apologize.
So if you're going for 10, it almost feels like you're throwing a bunch of stuff at a wall and hoping one of them sticks.
Well, okay, my opinion on live service games, and I'm not saying this just because of the division, is I think it's a good business model because once you've spent the initial cost in, developing the game, getting it out there, I have to assume, and now I don't have any basis of this, but I have to assume that further production of it, it's got to be like making DLC for games. Like, you constantly giving out content. I think the problem with live service games is that you always have to give them engaging content because the division suffers at that. Sometimes we get good DLC, sometimes we don't get good DLC. But I think it's a good business model because you spend less money on preparing the future for games instead of, you just spent, we reported a couple weeks ago that it cost $100 million to make a game. And now maybe it only costs you $25 million a year to develop that game. But if you started over from the start, you might have to spend another $100 million. So I think cost effective games as a service games are good for the industry, but the problem is keeping everybody, attracted to your game and keeping them coming back, which I think is the biggest problem. So, and like I said, I missed part of the conversation because I was taking care of Harley, but so if I repeat anything you guys said, just please, bear with me. I agree with Alex. 10 is way too many because you're going to cannibalize yourself. Even if they come out with one a year, you have to assume that if you're making a games to service game, you're expecting that game to be engaged for 2, 3, maybe even 5 years. And if you're coming out with one a year, then you're just going to cannibalize yourself. You're going to lose the audience on this one to make this one successful. I think you need to focus on one, and that's the one you need to focus on. I don't even know if the high number should be 5. I think it should be like 2 or 3. Did I repeat anything you guys said?
No, you're kind of agreeing with us.
Okay.
Yeah, we all seem to think that, and Yield said it first, but 10 is too many. And like I said, we don't know how far this is out, but how many studios do you have working on those 10 games? Because obviously, at the very least, the planning stages are going on these. So, do you have that many studios, or is that what, buying, even with studios like Firewalk and Haven, they're working on multiplayer games. Now, those could also be live service games, but are you going to start putting Naughty Dog and Guerrilla and Sucker Punch and all these other studios on live service games, or are you going to incorporate live service elements into their games? Yeah, it just seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Sony right now is, Game Pass. Xbox has their focus in Game Pass. Nintendo has their focus really on their first party stuff. Sony does have a focus on first party stuff, but then they're also like VR, and then there's potentially this handheld device that they're working on, and now they're going to work on story-based stuff and multiplayer and live service. If they wouldn't worry about VR and portable, I can believe they could do all the rest of that stuff to focus on the PlayStation 5. But they've got a lot going on, and I think they need to refocus on what's going on because it's going to cost them a lot of money to do all this shit.
Story-driven games.
Well, you can't have just that. You got to diversify, which I totally get.
I get too. But that's your bread and butter. That's Sony's bread and butter.
Yeah, but again, single-player story-driven games are one and dones, so to speak. After somebody plays a story, there's not a lot of people out there. I mean, well, there are a lot of people out there, but there's not as many people as we think that are out there that go after the platinum. So once somebody's done with the story, they move on with the game. And then you lost a customer. Where the live service games keeps you coming back. Division gets $10 out of me every 3 months. Now it's $10, but how many people are also doing that? And then I love my single player games. I love my story driven games, but I think there is a need for games of service. I mean, look at the most successful live service game that we have right now, and that's World of Warcraft. How many years has that been going?
Oh, well, I was still in school.
Yeah, so, I mean, now granted, there's not as much love for World of Warcraft, but at some point, they had 11 million subscribers that are paying $15 a month. You do the math on that. You know what I'm saying? It's... All right, so we're going to move on to our next topic. Now, clarification, this is a clip that
like an hour from... Well, go ahead. Sorry, you go first.
Okay, this is a clip from a tweet that was a clip from the Kinda Funny Xcast. So there is a whole interview attached to this, which makes what I'm about to play... It doesn't make it seem as bad, but it doesn't help it at all either. Now, just for context, I'm going to play the entire clip at once so nobody can say I edited anything out of this clip and whatnot. And then we're going to go back because Yield gave me some timestamps. He wants to talk about each individual section. So just for clarification, I'm going to play the entire clip first. It's like 2 minutes long. And then we're going to go into each individual thing as I play the clip from that section.
Okay, so before you start,
go ahead.
This is from like an hour and 45-minute interview. So even this 2-minute section could be taken out of context, so to speak. I saw this 2-minute clip, and I was like, you know what? There are some things in here that we could discuss. This isn't a bash Xbox, bash Phil Spencer. It's just some things that he said that when I heard it, I'm like, when I heard it, I came across three things. I came across I get what you're saying here. I agree with you, and I don't even think you're on the same page as everybody else. But so that's why I was like, this would be something really good to debate between the three of us, even the community. So,
all right, just to clarify,
that way people don't think that we're like, oh, we're bashing Xbox. No, this is just what we think of what his statement is.
Yeah. All right, and just to clarify, it wasn't an hour and 45 minutes. It was only like 41 minutes long, the entire interview.
Oh, 40. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. Just in case somebody tries to go Google it, they're not thinking, oh, I found the wrong one.
Gotcha.
You could easily just find this Google Xcast Phil Spencer, and it's the latest one. It was posted 4 days ago as of this recording. So if you're looking for the entire video, that's what you do. All right. So now I'm going to play the entire 2-minute clip, and then we're going to go into each individual section.
We're not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo. There isn't really a great solution or win for us. And I know that will upset a ton of people, but it's just the truth of the matter is that when you're third place in the console marketplace and the top two players are as strong as they are and have in certain cases very discrete focus on doing deals and other things that will that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team. That's on us, not on anybody else. Our vision is that everybody who's on console has to feel like they have a great experience and they're a first-class citizen. They've invested a ton in our platform. But we are not in a position, and I see it out there. I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games. So when you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our Xbox community to feel awesome. But this idea that if we just focused more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, I think doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. Like 90% of the people every year who walk into a retailer to buy a console are already a member of one of the three ecosystems, and their digital library is there. This is the first generation where the big games that they're playing were games that were available last gen. When you think about Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft, like the continuity from generation to generation is so strong. I see a lot of pundits out there that kind of want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and discs and every new generation was a clean slate and you could switch the whole console share. That's just not the world that we are in today. There is no world where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. That's not going to happen.
All right, so that was the whole entire thing. So, again, I just want to clarify, this comes from Kind of Funny's Xcast. Go check out that video, whatnot. But Yield, I'm going to play the first section that you wanted to talk about, so you know, because there was a lot of things in that little 2 minutes there that I wanted to make sure people heard, you know, saying that we didn't like edit this to, you know, pick and choose his words to make him sound bad or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and play the first clip now that you asked me to do, and then the floor is yours once it stops.
Okay.
We're not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo. There isn't really a great solution or win for us. And I know that will upset a ton of people, but it's just the truth of the matter is that when you're third place in the console marketplace and the top two players are as strong as they are and have in certain cases very discrete focus on doing deals and other things that will that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team. That's on us, not on anybody else. Our vision is that everybody who's on console has to feel like they have a great experience and they're a first-class citizen. They've invested a ton in our platform. But we are not in a position, and I see it out there. I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way.
Floor is yours, Yield.
So, first off, I forgot to put in there about the deals. They've done as many deals as Sony, so I don't know what he's hinting at there. The main thing I wanted to say about here is where he says, well, if we build good games, it'll switch the console share. He's right in the fact that it won't switch it now. But he admits later that they lost the Xbox One generation. Well, why did they lose the Xbox One generation? Because Sony put out good games. Putting out good games, to me, is the long game. Okay? You got to start putting out good games now because you're not known for it. But if you start doing it now, the next generation after, you'll start to swing a few people, and then it starts to snowball. So it almost sounds to me, with him saying that, is he's kind of just throwing his hands up. Well, no, building good games won't get people to come to our system. That's not true. I mean, as a gamer, I'm a Sony guy, but I would really like to play Sea of Thieves. But there's not enough there to make me go buy an Xbox. And that's where I think he's, I don't know if say losing focus, but I just don't agree with that statement of, if we build good games, it'll turn around. That's exactly the problem, in my opinion.
Okay, just to play counterpoint to you, though, but he's kind of right in the fact that, like, even with your statement you made just now, they made a good game that you want to play, but it's not enough to make you go buy an Xbox. So he's right in that aspect, but I agree with you 100%. If you make good games
consistently,
then people are going to buy your console. The problem that I see is that I don't need to buy your console anymore because you're putting your games on PC. Once you start moving your games off of the console onto other avenues, the priority to have that console goes down and down and down the more you do that, because at some point, if I'm going to go get a PC, now granted, out of the three of us, I probably spent the most of my PC than you guys will ever do in your life.
Absolutely.
So, to me, there's no reason for me to go buy a Series X or a Series S because I can just buy your games on the PC. And
it's not necessarily just the games. Game Pass is available on PC.
I'm sorry, say that again, Alex.
Their killer app, Game Pass, or their killer subscription service is available on PC. You don't have to own an Xbox.
Correct. So you don't need. I think he's right on the fact that just because we come out with good games doesn't mean you're going to buy our console. I feel he's right on that, but he's losing the focus of there's no reason to buy the console because you're also releasing your games on PC. Matt G in the chat says he's only turned on the Series X maybe 5 times since he's had a high-end PC. The only benefit is Xbox 360 backwards compatibility. Which, before I turn the floor off to Alex, he also says, and I don't know if it was in this clip or the next clip, people already have their game libraries. So anybody that, was all in on the PS4, they're not going to want to lose access to all those games, so they're going to buy a PS5 so they have access to those games. Alex, I'm going to throw the floor over to you.
So, I mean, when he talks about the competitors making moves that are, make it hard for Xbox to be Xbox, I think that, one, he's specifically talking about Sony because I don't think could be talking about Nintendo because Nintendo and Xbox have been, pretty, if not chummy, at least very, they're not enemies. They're clearly not rivals. They allow each other to exist in their own little worlds, and they do their own things. And sometimes they'll partner up for stuff. I mean, Microsoft allowed Banjo-Kazooie to be in Super Smash Brothers as DLC character, so they're on good terms. So the only way and Nintendo's not buying anybody, or they're not making many acquisition moves. So clearly that was a slap at Sony. Or not even a slap, but he could have outright said Sony, and he didn't. He made it seem, as if it was other people and not just Sony. But I think he was clearly talking about Sony there. But he's brutally honest, and I think that he recognizes that, and I have said this before, and I was told I was wrong. Game Pass was born out of innovation because of competition. Microsoft, yes, they saw the future, and they saw stuff like Netflix and direct delivery and streaming and all that kind of stuff. I get that. But also, that was born out of competition because they knew they couldn't beat Sony in a platform race. He even said it there. He's like, we can't out-platform Sony and Nintendo. He said it. And I've said that before, and everyone told me I was crazy. But they can't, and because they can't out-platform them, the more you sell in consoles, theoretically, the more software you're going to sell because there's more people with your console out there. I mean, the Xbox 360, which I guess people would deem a win for Microsoft, even though the PSP almost outsold the 360 and the PlayStation 3 definitely outsold the 360. So, I mean, they've never beaten Sony one-on-one in a console generation, sales of hardware, and likely not of software either. So going to Game Pass, while it was a brilliant innovation, is because they could not beat them in hardware sales. So I appreciate his brutal honesty because he doesn't pull any punches. He clearly, he could go on there and whine about the Activision deal. He doesn't. He basically puts the onus on himself and the Xbox team and said it's on us. I mean, how many times have I said that they have piss poor management of their first party studios? I mean, how many first party studios do they have, and then how many games exclusive games do they come out to their console that you can't get on a Nintendo or you can't get on a PlayStation? Everyone's like, "Oh, Game Pass is such a great deal because we can play, all these games on it." Well, yeah, you can play third party games, but how many first party games have come out in the past couple of years? And, how many of them have been good? I mean, Redfall was one of their big exclusives, and look at that. It fell right on its fucking face. And that's because of the management of their first-party studios. Tim Schafer, says Double Fine wants to do something new. They're not going to just do a Psychonauts 3. Rare seems to be doing new and different stuff. But, you ask anybody who plays games, and it seems like Rare's heyday is past them, when they were really shining on the N64 and they're not really out front doing much. Their acquisition by Xbox is largely seen as very disappointing. And everyone talks about, Sony and their lack of innovation sometimes and too many sequels. How many years has Xbox been pumping out Gears of War and Halo and Forza? Where's the innovation for Xbox? Is it only going to be in Double Fine and in Rare? Where's Hellblade? Why is Hellblade? Hellblade was in development before Ninja Theory was bought by Microsoft. Where is the updates on Hellblade? They pretty much killed off Battletoads with a terrible game they put out a few years ago. I mean, Microsoft has had some W's in the software department, but what they really need is they need Starfield to hit. I don't care if Starfield is going to, convert people from the PlayStation 5 to the Xbox, but they need that game to be a hit. They need I don't even want to say homegrown. I mean, because that game was conceived and announced before there was ever, Microsoft purchased them, but they need a first-party studio win with the failure of Redfall. And I think that, Starfield very well might be that, but I do appreciate his honesty. I think that Sony and Nintendo's biggest weaknesses are that they don't have quite the infrastructure or the Game Pass-like app or the subscription service that Microsoft does. Problem for Microsoft is that Game Pass is a lot of times just a place to play third-party games because where are the first-party games they're putting there? Every year, I feel like Xbox owners are lied to when they say, "Oh, it's going to be Xbox this year. Oh, it's Microsoft's year," and then the first exclusive you come out with in a while is Redfall. And like I said, Arcane's a talented team. Microsoft has a ton of money, but that game fell flat on its fucking face. So I appreciate that Phil Spencer is coming out and saying, like, yeah, we're fucking up right now, essentially, but it's. Yeah, I've been saying the same thing about Microsoft for a long time. Game Pass is great, but if I'm specifically buying an Xbox, I'm like, where are the fucking games coming from Microsoft Game Studios? Where are the games? And don't tell me the same old thing all the time. Give me some games. Because like Tricky said, you can go get Game Pass on PC, and there are so many other games you can play on PC via Steam. So what's the point of owning an Xbox other than you're someone who just wants a home console and you don't want to have to deal with upgrading a PC. You just want the ease of plugging in a console and playing from there. But yeah, I mean, at times Phil Spencer can come off as kind of like a used car salesman kind of guy, but I do feel like he's more open and honest than any other, game executive, especially the ones from Sony and from Nintendo. The candidness he shows, especially in this interview, you're not going to get from really any, like, you're not going to get from Jim Ryan, and you're not going to get from, people at Nintendo. They're not going to open up like that and, open themselves up to, I don't want to say ridicule, but just criticism by stating the brutally honest truth and not dressing it up. So, yeah, I appreciate what he said. I think he's right. But I do think that with, they've started to kind of focus on the, realizing they can't do, they've kind of taken the race out of hardware sales and been like, okay, we're going to have our infrastructure and we're going to let you play through these online systems and streaming and whatnot. A brilliant move. And, now they've started to purchase game studios. They've got a strong stable of studios. But at what point do those studios have to produce? Because, like I said, they've got
the games.
They've got must be over 25 game studios under their purview. And how many of them are coming out with games? The 2 games that are going to be coming out this year, the big ones that I know of, are coming from Bethesda. I get that Psychonauts came out a couple years ago. I know that a new Halo came out. Turn 10's working on Forza. But you can't just say, hey, there's a new Forza, and you can't expect people to be happy with Gears and Halo all the time, because it seems like those fan bases aren't happy with Gears and Halo. 343, it was said that they, I think it's pretty much accepted that they dropped the ball on a lot of the live service elements that were promised with Halo Infinite, but then there was that news story that came out that Microsoft was taking Halo away from 343, and then later on, some studio head at 343, I think, said that, no, we're still keeping it or something. I do remember definitely that there was, like, news that 343 was getting Halo taken away from them. So there's a lot of talent there at Microsoft Game Studios, but the leadership and just kind of the people that reign in the talent seems to not be doing their job. So I don't care how good Game Pass is. I would rather buy a PlayStation 5 and pay $70 for really good exclusive games like Horizon, like Ghost of Tsushima, than buy a console based on Game Pass and then play a bunch of third-party games for a subscription fee. To have to find third-party games to play just to justify my subscription fee. Because at some point, that's what it becomes.
All right, before we go on to the second thing, I missed something in the chat from our previous conversation. Just want to touch base on that. Joe said there could only be one master or apprentice in Star Wars. Dooku was the apprentice the whole time. That Maul was the fall guy. Again, I'm going to correct you and state that even Yoda says there could only be 2 Sith, the master and the apprentice, never more, never less. So Dooku was not a Sith at the time of Maul. There you go. All right, second clip. Yield. Again, the floor is going to be yours when it's over.
We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games. So when you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our Xbox community to feel awesome. But this idea that if we just focused more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, I think doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. Like 90% of the people every year who walk into a retailer to buy a console are already a member of one of the 3 ecosystems.
All right, Yield.
So he's right about, when you go to buy a console, you've already made up your mind. So I agree with him on that statement. But I will also go back and say that if you had or you started to produce good games, you would sway people who were on the fence. But I agree with him on that you're not, 90% of the people who walk into a store already know what system they're going to buy. And I'm not saying it's brand loyalty, it's the game library that you've got lined up. Maybe I'm old school in that aspect.
Well, he does touch on that in the next clip. But yeah, you're right. But I think it is brand loyalty to a certain extent. Maybe not as as powerful as one may think, but brand loyalty is definitely something. But like he says, he'll say in the next clip that we'll get to, your online digital games, your digital library has already been established. And like I said on the last clip, for somebody like me, and I'm just speaking from me personally here, I don't want to lose out on that library because I've spent hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, building up that game library. I don't want to lose the PlayStation Plus games I have. I don't want to lose the DLC that I've had. I see people like on The Division, they've switched from PC to console to PC, and they're like, oh, I got to start all over. This sucks. That is absolutely true. I mean, look at the Telltale games. Like, they had the Telltale games, the Mass Effect games. They all imported saves from the previous games to influence your choices in the next game. So there's some truth to that. Like, I don't want to lose out on that. And if I play The Walking Dead again, I don't want to lose out on my previous choices. I don't want Kenny to be dead in my original story, but somehow Kenny's still alive, because that takes me out of the experience. That makes me lose, like, well, why am I playing this? Because Kenny's dead. Why is he back in the second game? Alex, floor is yours.
I will give him more credit when he and you can see this shift in their focus from making it about a console race to, he talks about, you should feel like a first-class citizen when you buy a console. Everyone should be able to have fun and enjoy their experience on their console. And it kind of shows in the way that they have approached Game Pass and really have gotten away from more of the, console worry tactics that kind of Sony still employs. So their shift in their demeanor and their focus, you can see that in that kind of mantra where it's about like making sure that instead of trying to take away from the other consoles, just make sure that your space is a great place to play. So I do appreciate that that's the way he looks at it, and the way that the Xbox team and how they look at it.
But can I cut you off there real quick and just ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think that they're adopting that attitude because, as he said, we're not going to win the console space? So do you think that the way he's talking is because it's a defeatist attitude? It's like, well, we can't beat them here. We have to innovate our other stuff. But the other stuff, like Game Pass and stuff like that, that can only be as successful as the games are. So do you think he's just more or less taking like okay, we lost, and I'm just trying to humble myself here?
I think that people appreciate that honesty, that humility, and you got to be real. Innovate and adapt, and that's what they've done. To be fair, I know Microsoft has a ton of money, but how many other companies have been as successful as Microsoft in the video game space in launching a platform and then keeping it going for, generation after generation? Not many have been able to do it. So they deserve credit for that. I definitely think that they should have been better about acquiring studios all along and focusing on, like, I'm not going to make fun of them saying, oh, you got to buy your exclusives, because that's dumb. Sony also had to buy studios to bulk up their stable as well. But I think that they should have been more proactive with the money they had in purchasing quality studios instead of having to buy Bethesda, Ninja Theory, Double Fine, and then attempt to buy Activision Blizzard here all in the last 4 or 5 years. Like, that's a lot to have in that timeline. And, meanwhile, you could have been doing that all along. They spent the money for Rare early on, but they could have been doing more. So, but no, I don't think there's anything wrong with him being real about it and being honest. Yeah, you may not be able to beat other companies in the hardware, so why just be like, yeah, we're going to keep banging our heads against this wall? Why keep trying to swim up that stream? Like you said, take a different tributary, swim up a different, river, and try to innovate where other people are not there. And that's where, Game Pass and xCloud and, smart delivery and all these other ideas came from, and how they've been able to be successful at that. But they have purchased studios that hopefully will bear fruit. They're planting seeds that hopefully will bear fruit for them in years to come. But given what we've already seen from them and their management, I don't know how well that's going to go. We'll see when Hellblade 2 comes out, how long it takes it to come out, but also the quality of the game when it comes out. We'll see, the next Double Fine game, how that, bears fruit. We'll see how well Starfield does and how it reviews, because obviously there's a massive amount of anticipation for this game. And after something like Redfall, you need a hit in Starfield, because people buying Game Pass, I don't care if you put all your big first-party games on Game Pass day one. If the best games that I had to play are legacy games and Forza, you're fucking up. I'm not saying anything bad about their legacy games or Forza. Obviously, Forza, I think, is the best racing game there is right now. But you got to have more than that. And you got to have more consistent flow of games. I mean, to be honest, the last Nintendo Switch game I bought was Mario Party Superstars back in, like, fall of 2021. And, you know, I'm not saying that... I mean, Nintendo is obviously about to put out the new Zelda game, Tears of the Kingdom. They put out 2 Pokemon games. They put out Sparks of Hope, the new Rabbids and Mario collaboration. There was Bowser's Fury last year. So they put out games, and you know they've added all the tracks to the Mario Kart game through the booster packs. So even though I haven't bought a Switch game in a long time, they've still put out more first-party games than Microsoft. Well, we talked about the Metacritic ratings of the rankings of all the publishers that Sony won. Microsoft didn't even qualify because they didn't put out enough games last year. So they got some work to do. I mean, obviously their technology is far ahead of Nintendo and ahead of Sony. But, you know, they have to ask, you know, if you are going to essentially move into that space and move away from the console space, you're going to at least have to put out. You can't just have Game Pass. You're going to have to deliver the games with it. Because, like, now, PC is better to own than Xbox because you get access to also the Sony games as well. Sony games are coming to PC. So, but PlayStation Plus and trophies and all that stuff, you can't really get that on the PC. Now, achievements you probably can't get on PC as well. I mean, Steam has achievements, but specifically Xbox achievements are only on Xbox. But there's so much of Xbox, or what defines Xbox as good, that you can get on the PC. Like you said, unless you're more mainstream, why would you want to buy an Xbox over a PC?
All right, so Yield, before I go on to the third clip, do you have any... I want to pose the same question to you. Does it sound like Phil Spencer's got a defeatist attitude because he knows he's lost and can't win?
I mean, when you pose it that way, yes. I mean, I agree with what Alex was saying from the beginning about him being brutally honest. I mean, I found it refreshing, but I am a pundit of, if you to coin Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. If you make good games, then you will shift the console share. Like I said, it won't be this generation, and it might be a couple generations down the road, but I am a firm believer in that. And it almost kind of does sound like, well, you know, we lost the Xbox One generation, so we can't beat them, so
we're going to give up.
Well, in a sense, we're not going to worry about building good games. We're going to do this. And, you know, I remember I made the comment, this was probably 6 or so years ago when we did one of our E3 shows. And I sat there and went, you know, Xbox is doing something. And good for them. Because at the time, you know, we're all like, where are your games? You know, it's, you know, Halo was on such a high, and then they started fumbling it. And they started to look like where they were going more digital. They were doing more stuff that way. And I was like, well, you know, this is good for you. It keeps you relevant because Sony and Nintendo aren't really doing that. But that will only take you so far. So, and like I said, in my opinion, I will keep beating games until the horse is beyond dead.
All right. And the third clip.
And their digital library is there. This is the first generation where the big games that they're playing were games that were available last gen. When you think about Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft, like the continuity from generation to generation is so strong. I see a lot of pundits out there that kind of want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and discs, and every new generation was a clean slate, and you could switch the whole console share. That's just not the world that we are in today. There is no world where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. That's not going to happen.
All right, Yield, floor is yours.
So I find it funny that the 3 games that he mentions about your backwards library, are all Microsoft games. But
Is
anyway,
Roblox a Microsoft game?
Roblox isn't Microsoft.
And Fortnite
It
isn't either. It's Epic. Fortnite's Epic.
oh, okay. So sorry.
And Roblox is available on other consoles. It's just not available on either PlayStation or Nintendo.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm arrogant in that then.
That's fine.
What really got me was he said if Starfield's an 11 out of 10, people won't start selling their PS5s. He's right. He's 100% right. But if Starfield's an 11 out of 10, you'll get a few of those people to think that maybe I won't get a PlayStation 6. I'll get the next Xbox. And that's where it starts. That like I said, I agree with this statement that Starfield's an 11 out of 10, no one's going to sell their 5. You're right. They're not. But you will start the ball rolling. And it almost, to me, it almost feels like he's like, it doesn't matter how good this game is. We can't convince you otherwise.
See, his last statement that if Starfield's 11 out of 10, people won't sell their PlayStation 5. I heard his words, but what I heard was if Starfield's 11 out of 10, it's not going to make people go out and buy an Xbox S or X. Because I think that's what he really was saying. Maybe that's my take of it.
No, it does kind of sound that way, and I disagree with that statement. If I should say, I disagree with that line of thinking, if that's where it was going. Because if it's an 11 out of 10,
people are going to buy an Xbox.
You're going to get people to buy it to play that. Okay, so let's take my brother, for example. Now, granted, he got his S on a cheap. A friend wanted to get rid of, a coworker wanted to get rid of it because he didn't play it. My brother is highly looking forward to Starfield because this is his types of games.
Right.
So, if he hadn't already picked up an S on the cheap, he would be looking for one. If the game turned out to be as good as they're pimping it out to be.
And to be fair, he did buy a 5 recently, and I suspect that's mostly because he wants to play Final Fantasy.
Well, it was also Jedi Survivor because he really liked Fallen Order. Final Fantasy really helped out. There was a third game. He'll comment when he hears this. There was like 3 or 4 games. He was already wanting Survivor, and then the buddy at work who sold him the Xbox was like, well, here, have you heard about this Final Fantasy game? Well, here, have you heard about this? And fed him games that are in his wheelhouse, and he's like, ooh, all right, I got to have a 5.
All right, Alex, floor is yours.
The important thing to remember is even if it doesn't win you, a console generation, putting out good games that are going to make you more money. And maybe, honestly, with Game Pass, maybe they don't even necessarily need... It's like the WB Network. Once the WB Network came around, if all they had to do is get your subscription, and they didn't need to worry about putting on good television or good pay-per-views because you weren't paying $60 or $70 for a pay-per-view. You were paying your subscription fee for $5 a month, and who cares what the quality was because... once in a while, you'd see something good, and then regardless of how much crap you had to wade through, you'd still watch WB TV because $5 a month, who cares? You get WrestleMania for $5, you get Royal Rumble for $5, whatever. With this, it's Game Pass is such a good deal that it's almost like maybe it does hurt consumers' confidence in the Xbox a little bit, but because I've seen there's a story written by GameSpot about how Microsoft's finding it hard to find their big first-party games to put on Game Pass, or just in general. And people were commenting, "What are you talking about? Blah blah blah. This game's great. This game's great." Now, keep in mind, these people who were commenting were not mentioning Xbox first-party games, which is the complete point of the article in the first place. But people still have a great experience on the Xbox. People still love having the Xbox because of Game Pass. So I wonder if Microsoft really even has to put out good games anymore. I mean, they have to put out some, but they're not as dependent upon the AAA Game of the Year nominees as Sony has. Sony needs those. And Nintendo needs the high quality first party games. Microsoft, because of Game Pass, not so much. So they are not as reliant on it, but they still, obviously, with Phil Spencer talking about, we want everyone who owns our console to feel like a first class citizen. We want everyone to have a great experience. You still have to rely on those games. And yeah, one game's not going to do it, but if you do want to get more people invested in, potentially buying an Xbox, or subscribing to Game Pass with the added advantage that they can play first-party Microsoft Studios games, you got to get the ball rolling somewhere. And it doesn't behoove you. I mean, like I said, it may not hurt Xbox to put out mediocre games, because if you keep putting out Forza and there's a decent Halo and all this, people may not care. But, you've also got to understand that you're not going to convert anybody then. And yes, good games can convert people, or at least some people will buy all three consoles. They don't care. But you can make more money if you do put out good games. So I don't think that they're just not putting out games for the sake of not putting out good games. I think that they are struggling to find their way when it comes to their first party studios, and there's an issue there. I mean, I talked about it earlier, where Bethesda was they laid off thousands of people earlier this year. So I don't know, maybe there's an issue there with gelling, bringing these big studios. Because integrating Firewalk and Haven into Sony is not going to be that hard, whereas bringing in Bethesda and Activision would be a much, much trickier thing. There's just a lot more moving parts, and I don't know if it's just kind of growing pains between Bethesda and Microsoft, but, when we talked about Arcane, they did Deathloop, I believe. They did the Dishonored series. They made good games, and so for some reason, Redfall just wasn't one of those, so I wonder if it's just it's harder to integrate those larger studios into Microsoft than maybe would have originally thought. So I think that Microsoft has the pieces, but they got to find a way to put it together, because you can't have that many studios doing a whole lot of seemingly nothing. You can't have close to 30 studios before the acquisition merger and or the Activision acquisition, and produce, have people constantly wondering, well, where are the games? Where are the games? So I forget what the question was or where I was even going with this, but I mean, overall, I appreciate Phil Spencer's words. I think he's right. I don't think he's saying that we don't need to put out good games. I mean, I personally think that they're not hurt as much by a game like Redfall as Sony would be, because I think Forspoken probably hurt Sony a little more than Redfall hurt Microsoft. Although, maybe something like Redfall was kind of something that kind of exposed Microsoft's first-party slate more than they would have liked. But Game Pass does afford them some protection from that, whereas Sony and the PSN and PlayStation Plus do not. So, each platform holder has their weaknesses and strengths. It's just Sony and Nintendo's strengths happen to be Microsoft weaknesses, and, Microsoft's strengths tend to be the greatest weakness of Sony and Nintendo. So they're just kind of reversed. But again, I think that if all these game companies focused on just making their platform the best possible platform that they can provide to their consumers and make sure that people are happy on their console, things will be fine. I do kind of wish Sony and Nintendo, I shouldn't necessarily say Nintendo, I really wish Sony would adopt the same mantra that Phil Spencer has. Yes, be competitive, go try to win, I guess, or be, make the most money you can pour back into your game studios, but just don't do so much to hurt others and do more to help yourself, if that makes any sense.
All right, I'm going to finish this topic off by just saying some internet chatter that I've seen regarding this interview. Again, go check out the interview on Kind of Funny. Their YouTube show is called Xcast. Just do a simple Google search. We'll put a link to the entire thing in the summary for this. But some internet chatter that I've seen is that Phil Spencer's lost touch. He needs to be replaced. He needs to be removed from his position. I don't necessarily agree with that, and I don't know how you guys would feel about that. Is it time for us to move on from Phil Spencer? Because a lot of people feel like he's not in the headspace or the right person to lead Xbox into the future. Touching on kind of like what Yield says about, you have to start making the games now for the future. You can't worry about immediate success. You have to plan for, 10, 20 years down the line. So, Yield, I'll go to you first again. Do you think that Phil Spencer's lost touch and that he needs to be removed, or is he doing fine and just Microsoft just got to get their shit together, so to speak?
Okay, so just so I'm clear, because I don't follow Xbox a lot, what is exactly Phil Spencer's role? Is he like the Herman Hurst?
No, he's the
Jim Ryan. He's the head honcho.
No, he's the Jim Ryan. Okay, so I feel like he's got a different business model than I think how do I want to say this? His business model probably doesn't jive with at least the majority of the people in our group. I don't know what business model he's necessarily going after, and it feels like he's out of touch. I point to obviously several years ago when they made this shift. I was like, they're doing something, and I like what they're doing. It's hard to say. From me, being the pundit of making games, yes, he's out of touch. But they're still making money. He's still doing something right. It's just not the something that we want him to do. I hope that made sense.
All right, Alex?
I also saw online that he came out and said this stuff that, and these were just people commenting on, YouTube posts and whatever, but they were saying, Facebook posts. They were saying that, he's just coming out and saying this to make Microsoft look more pathetic so that the Activision merger can go through, which I don't believe at all.
I saw that as well.
Yeah. So I think he's doing fine. I mean, yes, there are problems, but I don't think that Microsoft needs to be led by anyone else right now. Give him some time to kind of, I don't want to say right the ship, but just improve things. Let them get past this merger, however it falls. And, like I said, they've made some key acquisitions. Give him some time to kind of oversee that. And obviously, as the head of Xbox, they could have just done the same thing they did last, with the 360 and with the One, and just gone head-to-head with Sony and Nintendo and not change anything and focus on the box that they put into people's homes and the delivery of games to that. So they're kind of focus on switching the delivery method and how people consume games is a very smart strategy, given how heated the console race has become and how, you look at Sony and how many consoles they've sold. Only one of the consoles, aside from the PlayStation 5, of the first four consoles, only one has not gone over 100 million. That's a big hill to fight against. And Nintendo, the Switch is over 100 million. So even after the Wii and the Wii U and kind of the GameCube and the 64, where it looked like Nintendo was going down a little bit, knocked down a few pegs, the Switch comes out and it's on fire. So that's a lot to fight against. So they could have come out and done the same thing and been in a worse position, but they've changed it up. They've adapted. They're trying to thrive on that, trying to make money in different ways, and it seems to have really resonated with people. But they got to get the first-party games out there. That's their one weakness. If they had first-party games that were as good as Sony's or as highly acclaimed as Sony's, damn, they'd be unstoppable. But yeah, I think that he's doing fine. He's leading them through some choppy waters, and he seems to understand, for the better or worse, their faults, their strengths and their faults. And you can't look at that and be like, oh, he's a defeatist, blah blah blah, just for being honest and kind of just taking blame head on and be like, this is where we're weakest, and this is how we think we can strive and survive, and well, not survive, but just thrive. This is how we can be better as a platform. So just leave him alone. He's fine. He's doing fine. Just there's a few things they need to work on, but I don't necessarily think there's anyone else better to do that for Xbox.
As far as me, I don't think he's doing a bad job. I think he's too much of a cheerleader and rah, just in general, not just the interview. That I think he's trying to placate to the gamers too much instead of just focusing on putting out quality games that are going to appeal to the gamers more. I think if you talk up a game so much, and we've seen this, through Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft as well, if you talk up a game too much and then when the game comes out, it doesn't deliver, then it just seems like everything you were saying was bullshit and you're just trying to get us all hyped and trying to get the pre-orders up and whatnot. And I think ultimately what matters is stop talking so much and just focus on what you have to do to get the gamers instead of trying to win them over with your words. Does that make sense? Because I also think he's well, let me answer. Okay, I also think he's setting us up because long suspected is that we're moving away from consoles in the future. Like we're gonna get like apps on our TVs and our computers and stuff like that, where we're not gonna need the consoles. We're gonna go to an all digital future. There's not gonna be a need for the consoles. I think Phil Spencer is trying to lead us to that, but we're just not ready for it yet. Does that make all sense?
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate his, like I said, I appreciate his candidness, and I wish that some of Sony's more, because Sony's executives kind of come across, I like Shuhei, except for Shuhei, they kind of come across as kind of like
corporate,
like just these like scaly, wet fish, like not warm or endearing in any way, just kind of like cold.
Look at me, I'm a gamer.
See, that's why I like
I don't like Jim Ryan as much as I like Phil Spencer. I'll be honest about that.
I mean, that's why what I was really enjoying it was when we had Jack Tratton, because we had the whole Kevin Butler thing. Like they just like let down the veil and it's like, let's have some fun with this. And now with Jim Ryan, it's just like all corporate. It's like, oh, we can't do cross play because we got to worry about the kids and all that bullshit. All right. So we're going to wrap this up, but just some comments from the initial Facebook post. JT says, honestly, I think at this point, actions speak louder than words. I need to see the next few releases, Microsoft IP and quality to get down to what he is saying. Daryl responded by saying agreed, but to his credit, he takes full responsibility. Now, whether or not that means anything or not will change. Only time will tell. But the way they mishandle Xbox is why I left. JT agreed. JT also said, please just don't fuck up Starfield. And Daryl says, don't hold your breath. And then we have one last comment from Terrence, who said, brutally honest, but also the reason why he needs to step down. We need someone with a vision and competitive edge to win back Microsoft's edge over the Sony Nintendo Switch. So, there you go. All right, we're going to wrap up the show. We're going to do some shout-outs. We'll start with you, Alex. Your shout-out, sir.
We'll give a shout out to the listeners, the fans, the fuel to the fire that's Trophy Hearts, our tremendous community, which keeps us going. Without you all, hey, without your support, we're nothing. So thank you all for continuing to push us forward this episode and beyond. Give a shout out to Tricky and to Yield, who joined me on this journey tonight. And I couldn't join last night. We're recording on Monday instead of Sunday, because I had friends in town for the Derby, and I hadn't seen them in a long time. We're talking years, so I definitely didn't want to miss that. So Tricky was willing to move the recording night, so kudos to Tricky. Thank you, sir. And, last but not least, give a shout out to my loving and awesome girlfriend, Ashley, who we need to sit down together and watch the Last Kingdom movie. If you've not watched Last Kingdom, the TV series, it's very good. It's on Netflix. Get ready for the movie. And, that's my shout outs.
All right, Yield.
Give a shout out to Prepare to Die or Scum and Homer Get Stuffed for we were playing Diablo 3 together, and we helped all of us get the platinum in that. Now we just got to get the Brain 76 for his platinum, because the four of us were playing through the game together. Another shout out to Prepare to Die or Scum. He actually 100%ed Diablo 3. He had the DLC, so that was impressive. Shout out to Alex, the Brain 76, and Nitro for some Rocket League on Thursday. Shout out to all the pimps and madams of the whoredom for interacting with us, listening, hanging out tonight in the Twitch chat. And shout out to Phil Spencer, because I believe that this was an interesting topic to talk about in a non-bashing Xbox way.
Yeah, you kind of surprised me, Yield, when I posted this. You're like, yeah, we're going to talk about this on the show. I was like, that's what I like to see. Yield, you were immediately engaged.
Well, like I said, I found it interesting because it was like the last gentleman who posted on Facebook. Terrence said he was out of touch. And as I was listening to that, not that I'm saying he was out of touch, but it was like, okay, I kind of agree with that statement. No, I don't agree with what you're saying at all there. And no, yeah, you're right on point here. I was like, this would be a good thing to talk about amongst us and even in the community. And just in his view of where his company stands and where they could get, no, I shouldn't say where they could get better because he really kind of didn't say that, but just in his view of the gaming community and where they stand. So.
All right. And I want to give a shout out to all the listeners. Shout out to V. Thank you very much for becoming our new social media manager. Again, she will be running all of our socials, our TikToks, our Facebooks, our Instagrams, our Discord, our groups. She's going to get you guys engaged in conversation, get you guys some talking points so we can talk about it on the show. So thank you, V, very much for stepping up to help us with that. Greatly appreciate it. Shout out to Alex and Yield, who, we're recording a day late, but, we got it done. And while it does give me less edit time, I feel like I don't have many edits to do because we were on point and we did everything we needed to accomplish with the show. So I thank you guys very much for a great show. I'll reiterate what Yield said. Like, we were able to talk about Microsoft and this, and we're not really bashing them. We're just being open and honest. And I feel like a lot of times, like, we joke around and we bash them and whatnot, but Phil Spencer coming out and being humble, whatnot. I do think he's a little out of touch with some things, but again, that could be because he's preparing for the future to our non-console gaming and our all digital future. I think he implemented it too soon, but it is what it is, and we'll get there eventually. How many times have we seen something like and we use their phrase, "It's before it's time,"
I think it's I know you're doing shouts, but I think it's hard to call him out of touch when he's Sony and Nintendo are kind of doing the same old thing and he's trying to do something different. So I don't know. I think that's a little unfair.
All right, that's a fair point. Shout out to all the listeners. Thank you very much. Thank you for Matt G, V, MZ Nitro, Joe, even though he came in here only to troll me. Thank you for being in the Twitch chat. And until next week, happy trophy hunting.
See ya.
Later.
The theme song is Venus by the band Even off their album Zenith. Permission granted by the band and 12 Stone Records. You can find them on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/evenphilippines.